Hey, this is Mark A. Altman.
And this is DAREN DOCHTERMAN.
And this is Ashley Miller.
And we are the Inglorious
Treksperts.
And this is our anniversary tribute to yesterday's Enterprise from Star Trek Las Vegas. We should probably look at episodes that aren't so good. Maybe we should do like our anniversary tribute to like Shades of Grey or something.
Yeah.
I thought this was
Wouldn't it be more interesting to talk about the crappy episodes?
Yeah, exactly. Like any episode of what? Oh, did I say
Oh, you said it, not us.
Huh?
All that
Sorry, sometimes the jokes just...
Speaking of stuff we're not huge fans of, I've gotten a lot of requests to bring back the Strange New Worlds fans.
Well, that's nice.
The Kay and Gab and Zazzy to talk about Strange New Worlds. So we might have some additional time off coming up.
Well,
Good to me.
oh, okay.
Yeah. Look, this is good. The more they do, the less we have to do.
That's so true.
Good. Because we've been a little busy.
Throw at them.
I thought we were doing a combination tribute to Tomorrow is Yesterday's Enterprise.
Oh, well, there you go.
Return to Tomorrow is yesterday's Enterprise.
Tomorrow is tomorrow is tomorrow.
Yes, Return to Tomorrow is yesterday's Enterprise incident.
It's Tomorrow's Yesterday's Enterprise today.
Well, shit.
Okay. Yesteryear's Enterprise?
Yeah.
That's good.
Okay.
Counter clock incident. No.
Okay. So we've been busy. We have every reason to be tired. Not only did we have a crazy weekend at Star Trek Las Vegas, and I got to say, speaking of Las Vegas, I've been telling you, we've been getting such nice thank yous from everybody, but I think my favorite is from Bill George.
Aww.
Bill George, our good friend Bill George said, just what a wonderful time he had, how great the panel with Darren was. And he says, but the highlight for him was, he said, was my comment to someone in a Space 1999 uniform when I said, thank you for your service on the moon. And he said it was just the perfect blend of meta, bitchy, and sarcastic. And I said, good, that's great. I like that. So I'm glad that Bill was amused by that. But I think it was great. We didn't, speaking of bitchy, we didn't mention our restaurant at America. Remember at New York, when we were there, we went to America. Boy, that waitress, she did a 180 because she was the worst. And by the end, she was great.
Awesome.
That's right. But at first we were like, I don't believe in America. And then...
that's a little Godfather reference, by the way.
Made my fortune.
He's not jumping on the anti-Trump bandwagon with me. He's just doing a Godfather reference.
That's right.
So I believe in America.
Okay.
I still believe in America. One day it'll be back. But it's interesting. We went to America, which is a fun restaurant in New York. And this waitress was like, she had a chip on her shoulder. I'm like, oh, can I get some non-sparkling bottle? Wait a second. Hold on. And she gets a little thing on. And she's like, I got to take these orders first. And it was like, and I'm like, oh, this, she's the worst. But then she ended up like being just delightful. And we had a really good time with her.
She was the nicest lady.
And we had a nice little meal there at America. They got the big map of the United States up on the ceiling, and
Michelangelo painted that.
Michelangelo painted that. That's right. That's right. Not Da Vinci, is played by John Rhys Davies.
No, who was also Flint.
That's a little Voyager reference there for you.
Yeah.
But my God, it's been so long since we got to talk about stuff. We didn't even really talk about our New Orleans trip, and you went ghost hunting.
I did, man. That was cool. How
many ghosts did you kill?
You're not afraid of no ghosts, are you?
I am not afraid of no ghosts.
You're employing a double negative.
I am not afraid of no ghosts. So now it's a triple negative, and so now I'm good. No, man, it was cool. It wasn't just your standard ghost story, like, and then this person died in this house, and then people said, oh, they saw like an apparition, and then they ran out in the middle of the night and they puked in the street. We had like ghost hunting equipment. We had machines. We had technology.
You had Beatrice Straight with you and Zelda Rubinstein. That's how real it was.
That's right. This house is clean. There's video. There's all kinds of crazy crap, which honestly, like I should acquire all of that, and I should just send it to Mark Rivera or something. I don't know, but it was pretty cool. It was like actually being a paranormal investigator and being on my own reality show.
You didn't get to like rip your face off like in Poltergeist, where the guy is in the mirror.
Oh, I definitely did that.
Yeah, that was Spielberg doing that.
Yeah, it was more of a chemical peel than anything else.
Yeah, it was more of a chemical peel. By the way, I got to tell you, who gets the MVP for picking the best restaurant of that trip? DAREN DOCHTERMAN.
That's me.
That's him. That's DAREN DOCHTERMAN. Tell us, we went to Brennan's.
We went to Brennan's. It's funny because that was the one restaurant that I remember from my trip in high school to on a band trip to New Orleans and the Gulf cities. I remembered it being good, and I remembered correctly. It was.
You know what I remember being good? My favorite chain of restaurants, Filet of Soul. Filet of Soul was the restaurant chain in Live and Let Die. And we went to the street corner where they said,
whose funeral
is this? Yours. It's great. That was all I wanted to do. I just wanted to go on the Live and Let Die location tour. So great. The last day we were there, we got to go, and
when you were young,
awesome.
Your heart was an open book.
It was. I used to say live and let live.
You used to say it.
But not anymore. Now I say live and let die.
I used to say it, but not
I used to say thank you for your service on the moon. Anyway, that was we had a great time. Another fantastic GalaxyCon at New Orleans. And then speaking of GalaxyCon, you were at another one. DAREN was in Raleigh in July when we were at Comic-Con. Sure. That was fun, huh?
It was great. Got to talk to a lot of people and see wondrous things. I got to be on their...
You've seen things people wouldn't believe.
See things. They put them in their bodies.
No, that was a Blade Runner reference, not a Star Trek reference.
Oh, sorry.
I got to do their version of Match Game, which was...
Down. How was that?
It was fun. But what can I say?
It was silly.
It was...
blank project.
They kept
blank
to say blank.
Blank project. Blank project. What's your pick? What do you want to lock in?
My Science.
Okay, good. And what about you, Ashley? Blank project.
I got nothing.
Jesus, our number one answer, $500. Genesis Project. Jeez, you didn't match Richard Dawson, guys. Come on.
Yeah, I know.
Genesis Project. That was so simple. But My Science Project was good. But how about Manhattan Project? That would have been one of the three in the super
project.
match.
That's right.
The Alan Parsons Project. But you were clueless. You're like, I don't know.
Doesn't matter if you match as long as it's funny.
That's right.
But you don't get the money.
Match.
You don't get the Quatloos.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all lovely. When we were in San Diego, we had a nice time. We went to Osteria Panavino. We went to Lou and Mickey's. We had some good meals. But of course, the highlight for us was the Starship Smackdown. This year, we had an actual, fully accredited PhD in spaceshipology. Mr. Ronald D. Moore joined us,
nice.
And that was great.
That was a great Smackdown, dude.
He was funny.
He was very funny. It was great having him. I just wish we had Mike McMahon.
Steered him into the sun.
That's right.
We steered him into the sun.
And he had like three of his babies that he had to pick between. That was pretty good.
He was great.
And the boys did great.
He loved it too. Ron loved it because so many of his creations made it to the later rounds. So
that's right.
That was good. Ed Baldwin made it pretty far as the Captain's Courageous round, but it was not to be for him. It was not to be, Cherie. But yeah, no. So San Diego was great. But then you guys had a busy weekend because Ashley, you were just at the GalaxyCon San Jose. You found your way to San Jose.
I did. I had a really great time, honestly. It was a little weird being there without you guys. I got to do some really...
It's weird.
I got to do some really great, interviews, Q&As. I had Jeremy Renner. I'm sure that is going to be an amazing episode. Giancarlo Esposito, which was also fantastic, in which I got to ask him who would win in a fight, Moff Gideon or Big Bird. So it was a lot of. I also got to do the match game.
You did the match game too?
I also did the match game.
Okay, that's cool.
You need a turn on the match game.
Blank Enterprise. Blank Enterprise.
My only complaint about the San Jose trip was I flew in yesterday-ish today.
Yeah.
Also, like I got up at 3 a.m. to get on my early flight. The flight was turned around, like delayed until the night. I got onto a different flight that then got delayed until the evening. That flight got out onto the tarmac. Then the crew timed out. They pulled us back.
Oh my gosh.
Onto the flight I was supposed to get on. We left. I got home. Like we landed at 2:15. I was home by 3 a.m. So I was awake for 24 hours getting back from Santa. I could have driven.
This never happened to the other fella.
Yeah, exactly.
The other guy went to Ticonderoga.
But I had a great time though. I was so glad that I went.
Where'd you go to eat?
Well, honestly, just ate the green room, man. Actually, I had a really good meal that I think you guys would have liked. I went to an Italian restaurant called Il Fornaio, which was across from the hotel. But it was no, there is a chain called El Fornaio. This was just a.
I went to Sbarro's. It was like really good pizza. You should try it.
No. This was. I've been to the chain Il Fornaio. Okay. This was not the chain Il Fornaio. This was just a restaurant called Il Fornaio.
Nice.
I actually went to it thinking it was the chain, and I would know what I was getting myself into.
You didn't go to that great pizza place from last year, did you?
No.
God, that was the worst.
It was it was really good.
Well, I'm so excited that you did that convention panel because we had so much success. We did it with Adam Malin at Star Trek Las Vegas. Then you got Mike Broder to break his 15-year no panel policy to do the convention panel with you and Joe Sikoriak.
And he was terrific. And
of course he was. He's great.
It was a really great combo, man. It was like, chocolate and peanut butter because Mike had such interesting insights on what Joe was presenting. He, for those of you playing at home, Joe did a really great was part of a really great panel for us in convention history in Star Trek Vegas. He had a presentation on the history of fan conventions, which I thought was fantastic. Mm-hmm. I asked him if he would do it again in San Jose because I knew he was going to be there because I really wanted to pair him with Mike Broder.
Well, Mike has such great convention stories.
Absolutely. And he really knows and loves that history going all the way back to the 19th century. We've had him before on the show to talk about that stuff. But I felt like that combo of those guys, like giving the audience just loved it. We had a really great turnout for that. That's awesome. It was a lot of fun. Good.
That's fantastic. And then Darren, you were not in San Jose because you were in Ticonderoga, back at the scene of the crime. Tell us about that.
It was for the 10th anniversary Trekonderoga. They've been doing this mini convention for 10 years. And it was great. We had our friends Armin Shimmerman and Nana Visitor and Terry Farrell and Kate Mulgrew.
Yeah, how was Kate?
She was great. Kate was great.
Did she find it weird to be on the bridge of the Enterprise, which she knew nothing about?
Well, she didn't not know anything about it. She's been around. She knows that there was a show called Star Trek. No, she was very happy. She loved the sort of intimate feeling of the convention, and
great!
Liked spending time with the fans. And
good for her.
And she said that she understood why Shatner liked it so much.
I understand why you cry.
That's fantastic. Well, good. Hopefully she'll come back.
Yeah.
So
Armin
many
was amazing. I found out Armin is a huge fan of Star Trek.
No way. You know what? I never knew that.
Neither did I.
How many times have I interviewed him? I never knew that.
He revered the original show so much, he would not sit in the captain's chair.
Wow. That's a little too much reverence, honestly.
No, that's pretty cool. Good for him.
At his bridge chat.
I wish other people had that much respect for the original show. Like people who are making murder mysteries.
He was great. We got to hang out with him a little bit afterwards and had some nice chats with him. He's awesome. And of course, Nana and Terry.
Oh, yeah. Well, you can't go wrong with Nana and Terry. They're the best. And then Armin's great. So that's great. I'm so glad that you were able to be there and enjoy the company of. But that's fascinating about Armin. I had no idea.
Yeah.
You just assume they don't like Star Trek, or they're not into it.
Right, that they're not huge fans.
But they're not
apparently.
huge fans. That's so interesting.
We just assume they're Brent Spiner. What? No.
No. We only assume Brent Spiner is Brent Spiner.
But that's so interesting that Armin's a big fan of the original Star Trek. That is so cool.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow. Well, maybe for the 60th anniversary, if you just talk to him about his favorite Star Trek episodes.
We could certainly do that.
I mean, he's so, tired of talking about Quark and Ferengi and all that nonsense. We should talk to him about the original series. And we know a little something about the original series.
James brought out, James got, a bunch of files from David Gerald and a bunch of things from Next Generation. And he brought out the Roddenberry memo talking about the Ferengi.
Oh, nice.
And he
boy.
Copy. And it was fantastic. He had never seen it. He'd heard about it.
Yeah.
Actually seen it.
Oh, that's great.
He was in the first episode with Ferengi. He played one of them. So,
Yep.
Well, Last Outpost, yeah.
Yes.
Well, by the way, today, on the day we're recording, this is Gene Roddenberry's birthday. It's also Frakes' birthday. It's John.
Correct.
So a posthumous happy birthday to the great Gene Roddenberry, and a very much alive Jonathan Frakes happy birthday.
He would have been
surely the best of times.
104, I think. Gene would have
104. He would have been 104 today.
It's his 71st birthday.
And Frakes is 29.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he was there at the Civil War, but he's still 29. When North fought South. So it's a little.
That was a TV show.
TV joke.
Yeah. Little television stinger.
A little TV reference there. Back in the days of the great miniseries, TV miniseries.
So that's all we got today. Thanks very much.
Yep. All right. Good night, everybody.
Okay, so let's get back to the match game. Blank Enterprise.
Tomorrow's.
Yesterday's.
Yeah, see, that's the topic for today's episode. And when we return, we're going to talk about yesterday's Enterprise. So stay tuned. Right after these commercial messages, we'll be back to introduce this amazing episode where we are joined by Ronald D. Moore, Brannon Braga, and the great Denise Crosby. So stay tuned. Okay, we're back. We're back, baby.
We're back.
And
we're so back, like McRib.
Boy, yesterday's Enterprise, this was interesting. I think somebody asked this or suggested it during our panel where they said, a lot of people give Best of Both Worlds credit for saying Star Trek is back in a big way, right? That this is Next Generation is significant. It's a worthy companion piece to the original series. But, yesterday's Enterprise preceded it by several months.
Yeah.
And yesterday's Enterprise is arguably as good, if not a better episode than Best of Both Worlds. So I thought that was a really interesting point that individual made.
I mean, I think there's something to that. I maybe the way that you square the circle is to say that yesterday's Enterprise was the announcement, and Best of Both Worlds was the confirmation that yesterday's Enterprise wasn't a fluke. And I think that was the moment. Like at that point in Next Gen history, just for myself as a viewer, obviously because I was a test pattern Trekkie at the time, I watched Next Generation religiously, and I knew that the show was much better than it had been. But I remember some of my friends, because I hadn't seen yesterday's Enterprise, I was out having a life or something, had said, "Oh my God, that episode is just incredible. It's as good as anything that was on the original series." And I said, "Let's find out." So I remember being blown away by that. And I think the fact that they were then able to consistently hit that, like I think the Best of Both Worlds was the moment when the zeitgeist like picked it up and went, "Oh, right." The culture in general picked it up and went, "Oh, all right." Now Next Generation is kind of its own thing, and it's not just standing in the shadow of the giant. It is also a giant casting a shadow.
Yeah, that's a good point. Also, I would just say that, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't point out the towering episodes like Measure of a Man and Q Who preceded these episodes of the second season. So it's a fallacy. Some of this conventional wisdom is like, oh, odd and even, all that nonsense. It's like, no, it's just conventional wisdom is not the truth, because there were some really great episodes. Yeah, that's true. But Yesterday's Enterprise, Yesterday's Enterprise came among a bunch of really solid episodes. I mean, obviously, who watches The Watchers? There were a lot of good episodes that season. Yep, totally. Yep. But that said, Yesterday's Enterprise, a lot of people say, oh, Next Generation never did a mirror episode. Yesterday's Enterprise, in a way, is as close as we get to a mirror episode. Yep. And I think it fulfilled that. It checked that box on the list. You didn't need to see a mirror universe episode after you did Yesterday's Enterprise. And Yesterday's Enterprise, it just comes together. I mean, David Carson brilliantly directs it. Production values are great. The acting is terrific. And it's just a wonderful script.
The cinematography in it is better than ever.
Yeah, for sure.
Actually, everyone was... Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, because they turned the lights off.
Everyone was so offended when I said gangbang. But
that's the term. That's what we
know.
That.
Like, they're like, oh, we don't say that anymore. Sure we do.
I don't give a shit.
It's like, that's what we call it. And I mean, we did that on a couple of shows in the last couple of years, where it's like the thing was shooting in 2 weeks and everyone had to take an act. And we still called it gangbang. I don't know this whole idea that, we don't use that word anymore.
Who is we?
It's not true.
Yeah, it's not true at all. It's just dumb.
I know everyone was so horrified that I said it. It was like I said something, like I was Abraham Lincoln coming on the Enterprise, calling her a charming negress or something. But it was like, I just said gangbang. And that's what they call it. That's what writers who had, when you have to do it. And especially that whole story of them having to do it over Thanksgiving. There's some great stories about that they didn't really get into, but just like how it ruined everyone's Thanksgiving to have to do this.
And you know what? A gangbang can be beautiful and consensual. So there you go.
Ash.
Yeah, but here's the thing about gangbangs. It's not beautiful and consensual on a TV show because it's like the showrunner saying, we're screwed. Everyone take an act. And you're like, oh, shit, I'm not getting paid for this because I'm not getting script credit, which means like I'm not getting any money for this, but I got to do all this work and it's the holiday or whatever. And now I'm stuck having to do this. And
Didn't they find a way to credit everybody on that? Or am I crazy? Am I misremembering?
No,
that?
Because I think they split it like story by and no, because story by is Eric Stillwell and the guy who pitched a premise that was somewhat in the similar that they bought that ultimately the script has nothing to do with, but it was close enough that obviously because the guy was partnered with Eric, who was Michael Pillar's assistant, the story credit is the story credit, but it's like. But, every writer basically took an act on that thing. So I don't think everybody gets credit on that. I think you're confusing it with, I think it was Armand Bashir or something, or Trials and Tribulations. Where they found a way to split the story by credits and the teleplay credits. Yeah. So that everyone on the staff would get credit because everyone worked on it. Yeah. And that was a gangbang. And
that was not a gangbang.
Well, it wasn't because they wrote it in plenty of time and it was always a plan that everyone would take an act. It wasn't like, oh my God, we're screwed and we have to have something to go on the stage.
Everybody is getting a bit of the enjoyment of being part of that
episode. Yeah, exactly.
As opposed to, oh God, is this going to work or not?
Enough about gangbangs. People may think this is a different kind of show.
Yeah.
No, they won't.
Okay. Yeah, it's just all just sort of pearl-clutching neo-Puritan horse shit anyway, but...
No, but I didn't expect it. It was like, so hard. Everyone was so horrified that I would say that. I'm like, this is a word we use in TV. I'm sorry, but it's just, that's the expression. I didn't get the memo that we changed the expression.
Let's play the panel. They don't want to arguing about this.
Okay. Maybe so DAREN, being the voice of reason, had suggested we continue because it's such a great panel. Enough of our yakking. Let's turn it over to... Ron Moore, Brannon Braga, Denise Crosby, David Livingston, and the Treksperts in conversation about yesterday's Enterprise at Star Trek Las Vegas. And when the panel's over, we'll be back with a few closing thoughts. Anyway, we have a really exciting panel. We're celebrating one of the great episodes of Star Trek The Next Generation on its 35th anniversary. But more than that, we're going to talk about its importance in laying time travel in Star Trek. So many great episodes that were inspired and that benefited from the success of yesterday's Enterprise. And to do that, we have just a remarkable panel of veterans of Star Trek The Next Generation to talk about this episode, as well as First Contact, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and more. So without any further ado, Darren's going to take the center seat. Oh, no, he's moving.
You get the center seat. I'm going to take this one.
So without any further ado, I want to introduce you to our panel. Producer David Livingston. Co-writer of First Contact and Generations, executive producer of Voyager and Enterprise, and co-creator of Enterprise, Brannon Braga. Writer for Deep Space Nine, executive producer and creator of Battlestar Galactica, and co-creator of For All Mankind, Ronald D. Moore. And last but not least, Tasha Yar herself, Denise Crosby.
By David Livingston, of all people.
I wanna, wait, you put your coffee on Star Trek?
Oh, sorry.
I'm kidding.
I put it on Kirk's wig. No, I'm kidding.
Steven Spielberg tells, there's a great axiom about the film business. Jaws was a nightmare to make. It almost killed Steven Spielberg. He got stuck in, Martha's Vineyard for an ungodly amount of time. The shark didn't work, as everyone knows, and it became a movie masterpiece. Hook, on the other hand, he had a great time making, and it turned out the way it turned out. Yesterday's Enterprise was a nightmare.
It was.
And it turned out great. Can you tell us a little bit about the race to get yesterday's Enterprise in front of the cameras and how you lost your Thanksgiving?
It was middle of the third season, my first year on the show, and it had started as a spec script written by Eric Stillwell and Trent Ganino, I believe. And Michael Piller handed it to me literally on my first day on staff and said, take a look at this, and I'm thinking about buying it and see what you can do with it. So I started working on the story outline early, and we were really desperate for material because even I joined the show in mid-season, and they were already behind. We were literally hand to mouth, getting a script done. It was shooting, on to the next one. You were never ahead. And there just came a point when yesterday's Enterprise is going to be this one, go. And we had no script. And we went into the production meeting with the story outline, and you're in the beat sheet. So you're in the production meeting with just, okay, the first thing is on the bridge, and it's going to be this, and all the department heads are looking at you in fear and anger because they don't have really anything to prep. And we're just tap dancing and saying, this is what it's going to be, this is what it's going to feel like, it's what it's going to look like. And then we divided up the actual teleplay among all the writers on the staff. So I took teaser 1 and act 5, and then the other acts were written by the other writers on staff, and then Michael Piller and Ira Bear would sew them together and do the final pass to get them out. But it was such a rush. And we're getting these calls from production, desperate for information, desperate for more pages. It's over budget. Oh my God, how are we going to do this? And there was a point where Ira brought us in over Thanksgiving because we had to be breaking it to make the schedule. And none of us were happy on being there on Thanksgiving, but it was just what you had to do. And somehow we got it out the door, but all the way through it, we were like, this is going to be a disaster. This is just, because it's not going to make sense. It's complicated. It's time travel. It's Guinan. It senses something. What the hell is that? Like, we don't know. Just keep going. Keep going. She senses something. It doesn't matter. It's something, and she'll tell Picard it's something, and he'll go, oh my God, it's something. And we'll just go, And it was that kind of spirit. And it wasn't until we saw the dailies from the alternate Enterprise that we all kind of sat up and went, oh, because that looks cool. Look at that bridge, it's moody and it's dark and the cast is playing in a different key. And we started to hope that maybe it was going to work.
Denise, I want to ask you, because of course this script, when it started in development, Originally, there were plans to bring back Spock, and later they said, oh, maybe it's Sarek, and all these different characters. And then it ultimately became, in its final iteration, Tasha Yar. And you were a big part of that because nobody knew really that you wanted to come back to the show. They thought, okay, you love being killed by an evil oil slick, and now it's done. But you were anxious to come back, and this was something you let them know.
No. That's not exactly how that went. No, I died and I left the show. It was a complete shock to me when Rick Berman called me at my apartment and said, there is a script that we have, that we're going to shoot, that brings Tasha back. She's alive. And I said, how? And I said, it's not one of those shower sequences, right? And he said, no. It's a really solid story. It's a time travel kind of thing. Would you read it? And I said, of course I'll read it. And so over the weekend, it was messengered to me. I read it. It blew my mind. It blew my mind. As I was saying to Ron backstage, had those scripts been in the first season, that level of writing and that well done, that's what I was hungry for. That's what I was looking for. And so I said, oh my God, this is fantastic. What a surprise, what a shock. I never would have seen this coming.
And it's amazing because you would think from the quality of the writing, this was something that had been honed and worked on for months. And in fact, it's what we in the business call a gangbang. It's when you have to get a script to the stage and get.
I was trying so hard not to use that term, but that is exactly the term that was used at the time.
Well, it is Vegas.
I didn't know that behind the scenes you were calling my beautiful story a gangbang.
It's an ugly thing, the writer's room. It's an ugly thing. Yeah.
It is nasty.
David, I gotta ask you, it appears when you first look at it, it all takes place on the Enterprise and a redress of the Enterprise on the sea. This shouldn't be an expensive show. But in fact, it was a very complicated show. And I wonder if you can talk about the challenges of producing the episode.
I love the lighting on the yesterday's Enterprise. My regret is that the whole show wasn't that way from day one, because it would have been an incredibly different television show. That's just an editorial comment on my part. In terms of the production part of it, Marvin turned down the lights and shot it with contrasty lighting. We had to modify the costumes a bit. They were changed a bit in the collar and stuff. But hey, we were doing 26 episodes a year, and it was just one more to accomplish. Ron's the one that had to deal with all the Cirrus on the thing. We had such a fine-oiled production unit that we could handle anything that was thrown to us. Even when we didn't even have a script at the first production meeting, as Ron pointed out. We simply had a story outline. But if that indicated what sets there were and prosthesis makeup and other changes, then at least the departments could go ahead and start work on that, or any construction that had to be done. But the words, if they came later, and the character development, that wasn't in our purview and wasn't necessary for us to be able to pull off the production.
Well, and what we were able to walk into that production meeting with, I called it an outline, and actually it's more of a beat sheet. And what that means is, and this is a tribute to really the discipline that Michael Piller and Ira Bear had in terms of the writing staff. You broke every single episode in detail. So we had every single beat of the story, like literally exterior space, Enterprise is beat 1 on the big whiteboard. Then 2, interior bridge, and you would list all the cast that was there and what they were doing, and if they saw something on the view screen. Beat 3, interior sickbay, and you'd have all the characters. So it was a very detailed process, and you would spend hours and hours in the writers' rooms breaking every single show, every single act, and every single beat of the story. So when we had to go into a production meeting with just a beat sheet, at least we had information that we could tell everybody, like who was going to be there, what they're doing, is somebody going to get killed, is something going to explode, all the crucial things that the department heads really need.
Brannon, I want to ask you, because you weren't yet on the show. You joined the show in season 4, I believe. And yet, this was a show that was held up as a great example of Star Trek Next Generation at its best. And you became a master of the time travel story. Some of your time travel episodes, Cause and Effect, obviously you and Ron's work on All Good Things is magnificent, and First Contact. Can you tell us sort of, if you recall, what it was like watching yesterday's Enterprise and how that may have influenced, because it seems like Cause and Effect and a lot of time travel you did lately was you didn't want to do that kind of thing. Oh, if this changes in the past, it's going to affect our future. You came up with some very inventive ways of dealing with time travel, such as Cause and Effect, that were very different than that.
Well, I view yesterday's Enterprise as really innovative time travel. No one was doing alternate time. People would travel to the past to prevent something from happening or make something happen, but no one was really having the timeline shift, And there's a panel later about Best of Both Worlds, and Best of Both Worlds gets a lot of credit for being kind of a turning point in Next Generation's popularity. But as just a viewer at the time, to me, when that Enterprise C comes out of the rift, it wasn't just a shift in the timeline. That's when TNG found its soul. You can really feel it in that moment. You're like, holy shit, this is cool.
It's interesting. It's almost a few minutes before. It's when Patrick yells out, may history always remember the name Enterprise. And this sort of cements the fact that Next Generation is a worthy extension of the legacy and would continue to be so for, in time immemorial. One of the things you've said in the past is that in a way you wish this had been the first Star Trek movie. I mean, you guys both did Generations and had the opportunity to bring Shatner and Patrick together, but there was just something really cinematic about yesterday's Enterprise that would have made a fantastic motion picture.
I don't remember saying that, but it's a good idea.
You did say that. You said that. You said it a few times. In the throes of Generations, every once in a while you'd say, fuck, man, I wish we had done yesterday's Enterprise. That should have been the movie.
It's a classic.
It's funny, we're not talking 35 years later about, episodes of Three's Company. I mean, we're still mentioning the Dallas Shower, but not much more than that. There's so much television at the time that, isn't worth mentioning 35 years later. Are you surprised here we are, after all your people are still fascinated by the story? That's how much it touched them, the emotion, the power of that episode. Because at the end of the day, it's a brilliant time travel conceit, but why it works is the heart of it, the characters, the emotion, you and Castillo, the sacrifice you make.
All of the above. I mean, it contains all of that. And, to put Christopher McDonald in that role was so genius. He is such a fine actor and such a soulful man. It was shocking for I can imagine being a young fan watching the show, and now you're in the 3rd season, and all of a sudden Tasha Yar is back, and she gets to have this really heroic moment. I mean, really, I hadn't seen the episode in 36 years. I hadn't seen it since it first aired. I hadn't watched the show. I don't sit around and watch, my team.
You're not Norma Desmond.
I'm not yet. I'm getting there, but I'm not there yet. So Norma Desmond, I'm not. But so because I did a little, I jumped onto Ryan Husk's 7th Rule, podcast. They wanted to take me through the first season together. So it was really amazing to do that. But I get to yesterday's Enterprise and I go, see? It's a hot episode. It's a loved episode, man. It's really got juice. It was it was such a profound moment for Tasha Yar to make that choice. And it was like, wow, I fell in love with the character all over again. It was really weird. It was like, oh my God, I am so grateful I had the opportunity to play this role.
Because she was allowed to make that choice this time, where she didn't have that choice in your previous last episode.
You're right. You're right. I mean, that was, she could have said, fuck no, I'm staying on this. I'm alive. I'm going to stay here. I don't know what you're talking about, Guinan.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I couldn't have made that choice because they didn't write it that way. But I was given that choice to make, and that's a hero choice. That's a hero choice.
Ron, I want to ask you, it was a very different time back then. There was no instant feedback with the internet. What there were primitive message boards, stone knives and bearskins. There was mail. There was answering machines. At what point did you realize that this was something really special that had caught on, that the fandom was so excited about?
That's hard to say because, we obviously were shooting it around Thanksgiving of like '89. And so I don't know when the broadcast date was, but I'm assuming it was well into the next year.
I think it was February sweeps.
There you go, February sweeps. I don't recall the ratings at all, but I do know that before the season was over, we were getting feedback that people really liked it. Like internally, we were really kind of ecstatic and surprised that it turned out so well, and we were really pleased with it. But before the season was over, we were starting to hear people really liked that episode. Yesterday's Enterprise, man, people were digging it. And you were starting to feel there was a bit of a wave out there of like, oh, we had really scored something. And it was taking place at a moment on TNG where you would go to a Star Trek convention like this, and you would still see people in shirts that were like, I don't like the bald guy, Kirk and Spock forever, they're the real Star Trek. And we were the new kids. We were still into the third season. We weren't, quote unquote, real Star Trek. And that was kind of the beginning of the shift. I think it was really Best of Both Worlds that kicked it over into a whole new thing. But Yesterday's Enterprise was definitely, looking back, was the moment we started to feel some love and, oh yeah, we did something good and people are talking about it and they appreciate it.
And this was also, David, this is, before the emergence of digital effects, so you're still shooting with miniatures. The Enterprise C had to be built for that episode.
Everything, not to denigrate it, but Rob Legato, who was the visual effects supervisor and subsequently won a couple of Oscars working with Mr. Cameron, he always referred to the Enterprise as plastic on a stick. Well, that's exactly what it was. Everything had to be manufactured and built. There was no such thing as digital effects. And the one thing that was always a problem for post-production was that they were always up against the completion dates for the episodes because everything had to be shot with motion control cameras, and that took a lot longer than what you can accomplish today with digital effects. So it was a huge sea change when digital effects came into being.
And, Denise, other than, obviously conventions, you were sort of away from the Star Trek family for a while, but, now is a chance to work with your old friends. What was it like coming, they say you can't come home again, but what was it like being back amongst those pranksters and merry fun makers and just the Star Trek, and how had things changed much tonally since, obviously Patrick became a lot less...
Stick up your butt?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. But after the gangbang comment, I thought I would hold on.
No, again, though, you've got to realize that the bulk of my work was with Captain Garrett and Lieutenant Castillo. There was a little, and Whoopi Guinan, which I was so grateful because I had met her before, but had never worked with her. And then she joined the cast, so I got to catch up with her and work with her. But I didn't have really any interaction with the rest of the cast. So it was kind of like a new show. It was an old show. It was my old show and my character, but again, my hair is different a little bit, slightly. The uniform's a little different. It was almost like I was doing a different show.
Like you were in an alternate universe.
I was in an alternate universe. How about that? What a concept.
David, oh, sorry.
Well, I was going to say, you also carried yourself differently. The whole cast did when you were on the other Enterprise. Just your bearing was more military.
Really?
I think so.
Well, you did have different uniforms, so maybe that had something to do with it.
Yeah.
It wasn't the jumpsuit, it was the separate.
It's a phenomenal thing for an actor. What an opportunity, a rare opportunity, for an actor to be able to be a regular, member of a cast and then go away for a while. Because that going away time is when you think and kind of things sort of percolate and you live in this thought and this feeling of what you did and you rarely have a chance to go back to the show that you once played in. So I'm sure there was just I brought all of that back with me.
And the mood of the piece was different too, because I remember, I don't remember all the specifics of the spec script, but I do remember as I was working on the story outline, one of the things that was in the original piece was, it's an alternate timeline and the Federation is at war with the Klingon Empire. But when I was writing up the treatment, I remember thinking, well, if they're at war with the Klingon Empire, it should really be more of a warship. This is now a warship. There's no families on board anymore. There's the command chair is elevated like it used to be in the old days. And the whole atmosphere of the ship, I wanted it to be different. It was a military organization, where Starfleet traditionally is not a military organization. But in this alternate reality, it had turned into, a place of an organization that was at war, and they were losing the war, was what I really liked too, that Picard ultimately has to admit that they're actually losing this war. So it's a more desperate time. It's a more desperate sort of atmosphere aboard the Enterprise than we had seen before.
David, I want to ask.
I was just going to say that for an actor, you play the given circumstances, and the given circumstances on TNG, it was more familial and not militaristic or anything like that. But then we get here, and now you have to play those circumstances, and that's what I noticed in the episode for all the characters.
And we'd be remiss, to not mention the incredible accomplishment of director David Carson and composer Ron Jones, who helped really cement this episode's place in the pantheon of great television.
I love David. I've worked with him a couple times, David Carson. Yeah, in different things. Tremendous.
David Carson is kind of my fault. One of my jobs was, and he's one of my closest friends now, but one of my jobs was to evaluate director's reels that I was submitted by agents and the studio. And I saw David's reel, and I was very impressed with the work and dealing with the actors and his visual style. But what really got me was the British accent and the fact that he went to RADA. So that was it.
Well, if we do this again, if we're invited back next year to do this again, I'm crazy enough to do it. I'd like to have David Carson come back to talk about Emissary.
David would love to do that.
Brannon, I want to ask you, obviously yesterday's Enterprise looms so large in the Star Trek annals, but when you did All Good Things with Ron, that's another time travel episode, but very different. And were you thinking at all about yesterday's Enterprise and trying to avoid repeating yourself? I mean, All Good Things, is right up there with 6 Feet Under and Battlestar Galactica, one of the great finales of all time. Not Lost, not Seinfeld, but one of the great finales of all time. And I wonder if you can tell us, because of course that is another ingenious use of time travel in Star Trek.
I don't recall anything except just trying to get it done in time. It doesn't sound like it was as harrowing as yesterday's Enterprise, but it was a 2-hour episode, and we were under a lot of pressure to get it done. I don't think we ran into any concerns about repeating.
We had done a few time travel pieces at that point,
Yeah.
so I do know we were trying to not repeat ourselves. We were trying to be careful we didn't want to step on previous episodes, and it was important to us to do something different. It does share the sense, though, in terms of the sort of hurried nature of it. You know, that we had to do All Good Things very quickly. It was like in a month. We had to go from soup to nuts on that script, and did not have like the long prep and the long of like writing generations over the same period of time. And there was something freeing about All Good Things that it just flowed. You know, that script just kind of came out of us. It was really remarkable the way it just happened to fall together.
But I guess with Generations, that was more the case. The Nexus was a way to avoid doing time travel, in a sense, you know, that was sort of coming up with an alternative to time travel because you had just done time travel and All Good Things.
What is the Nexus, Ron?
Let me tell you what the Nexus is. Sit back, relax. This is going to take a while. No. Yeah, we were at pains to come up with something different because we kind of had this list of things that Generations had to be, and a way for the two crews to meet together without doing just what felt like at that point a standard time travel piece where either they were going to go forward or we were going to go back, and we were, let's try to meet in the middle. Let's try to find a different way to put characters from these two series in the same space and in the same story. And out of that endless discussion came the Nexus, yeah.
You know, Brannon, time and time again, you've returned to time travel in an ingenious way. Year of Hell takes place outside of time. Many of the episodes, Cause and Effect, obviously, is the use of time travel in an ingenious way. Can you talk about, and then in the Enterprise, you had the idea of the temporal Cold War, which was an important part of that series. Can you talk about sort of your fascination with that as a storytelling mechanism and genre?
You know, I don't really know for sure, but I think in retrospect, it was a way to dismantle the show structurally and have a scientific reason to be experimental. You know, Cause and Effect was a very experimental episode. We thought, I thought I would probably be fired because it was, you know, on the surface, a very lazy script. You know, you're just repeating the same act over and over again. But, and I think it was a way to experiment with storytelling, you know, like All Good Things. You know, we didn't invent the idea of being dislocated in time. That might have been Kurt Vonnegut, and Slaughterhouse-5 is certainly another example of it.
Or Dickens.
Right. Christmas Carol, you mean? Yes, the first and greatest time travel story, and it was a way that we could explore different phases and facets of the characters, pilot as you know them today, and how they might be tomorrow, and that's what time travel allows you to do. It's more than just about whatever the goal of the supposed goal of the episode is. It's best when it has a character component.
Well, I love how you both have used time travel to explore character, which is Star Trek at its best. And, you know, Darren mentions Dickens, and Ron, you did that magnificently in Tapestry, which is literally Picard's Christmas Carol. And it's just such a wonderful episode and really illuminates the character of Jean-Luc Picard. I wonder if you can just tell us something about that.
Yeah, I love that. That was a special episode. You know, Picard dies, meets Q, and Q says, "Hi, I'm God," which is one of my favorite acting. I think that's the teaser out or the act out or something. And it was an opportunity to take the character back to when he was younger and sort of look at himself, you know, look at his life and what he had learned over time. And it was a very personal episode to me because I had famously or infamously, you know, flunked out of college, you know, lost my scholarship and, you know, the whole thing. And I had looked back on that period of my life with a lot of remorse and regret and guilt. But I realized much later that without that failure, without that, you know, disaster of my life at the time, I couldn't have gone to Star Trek. My life would not have taken the same course if I had graduated on time, if I had been an officer in the Navy. None of that, you know, would have led to where I was. So when Picard looks back and said, I pulled on, I looked at the fabric, the tapestry of my life, and I pulled on a thread, and my whole life unraveled. That was that was kind of my journey too. And so it was a really interesting way to sort of, talk about something that was very personal to me through the character and to make it always about the character. Like his backstory was not my backstory. I didn't have, those particular friends, but they were modeled on people that I knew and that I remembered at the time. And the time travel element of that was fascinating because he was literally still the Jean-Luc Picard that we know as a man, as an adult. But now he's back to when he was a young man, and the way he looks at his life from a distance, it looks very different to him. And he's shocked by who he was, and he's surprised by who he was. But then he learns to embrace who he was because it is part of the tapestry of his life.
And in the alternate timeline, you are a PA on Discovery.
That's right. That's right.
That was really funny. The ultimate time travel collaboration between the two of you is First Contact. And of course, this is a chance to do time travel. The traditional time travel story, something gets changed in the past and it's going to affect our future, but it's so brilliantly executed. I wonder if you can just talk about returning to use time travel in such an inventive way and going back to Star Trek's roots.
Well, that's a more traditional hook. They killed Zefram Cochrane. Star Trek will never be born, so to speak. And that's nothing that's so inventive. In fact, we had some very bad ideas initially. I think we were going to go to medieval times.
There was
The restaurant?
There was a Renaissance pitch that we actually worked on for a while. That was like, they go to the Renaissance. And,
Did Patrick say to Rick, I won't wear tights?
Yes, he did. He actually did. I will not wear tights.
I'm not a merry man.
But, what's interesting, movies and TV are so different. And you look, I don't know that we'd get away with that story on television for a couple of reasons. The time travel hook is too simplistic, and Earth is at stake. We very rarely put Earth at stake. That was because what else are you going to do? The universe? And so movies have to have higher stakes. And we could, I think, the movie wasn't about the time travel. It was about what we were trying to do and getting to see Star Trek happen. And so it's funny, when I think of the movie, I think of the Borg. I think of the Borg Queen. I think of the three wise Vulcans coming out of the ship. I don't really think about the time travel all that much, now that you mention it.
Yeah, it was definitely a way to get into the story, but it was like concept one. I'm pretty sure Rick was this one that said, we should do a time travel piece, right, for the second movie. And so I think discussion as a story began at that idea. Okay, if we're gonna do a time travel story, where are we gonna go? So yeah, the Renaissance, and then you're kicking around different ideas, but then it had to have a relevance and a resonance for Star Trek. So it started to focus in on, well, where does Star Trek really begin as we know it? It begins with warp drive. It begins with First Contact. And maybe we marry those two ideas together, that the development of warp drive and the initiation of the first warp flight from Earth is what starts First Contact, ironically. Like in the whole movie, you're not even really aware that that's going to happen really within the time frame of the film, and then it just kind of lands at the end.
I love that the studio said at the time, I think it was Jonathan Dolgen who said, the only good Star Trek movies are where Earth is in peril. Star Trek 2, anyone? Star Trek 6? It was sort of flawed conventional logic that the Earth had to be in peril to make a great Star Trek movie. Obviously, you did the studio note, and it was a great Star Trek movie.
Yeah, I agree with you, because I kind of feel like the feature film franchise of Star Trek, which is somewhat separate from the television franchise of Star Trek, has somewhat been cursed by that dictate. That if you look at the films, there became this sense that they have to have either the Earth or the universe has to be at stake, right? And the stakes are always like that in almost every one of the films, except for Wrath of Khan and Search for Spock, and basically the rest of them all kind of fall in line one way or the other into that. And I think it's not what Star Trek was about, to me. At its heart, at its DNA, Star Trek's a television show because it allows you to do more intimate stories, more interesting character stories. You can't do Data's Day as a movie. You know, you can't do Relics as a movie. You can't do a lot of the great episodes that we did as a motion picture. And I think that's unfortunate, but it also means that at its heart, Star Trek belongs, episodic. It should be, something you watch at home. It should make you think, and and there should be another one next week.
You hear that, Skydance? Denise, I want to ask
Totally
you,
agree. Totally agree.
before we go to questions, I want to ask you one more thing. Obviously, yesterday's Enterprise opened a door for you to return to the series. And this is where you sort of become pivotal to engineering your own return with, a little writerly ingenuity. Can you talk about the emergence of Sela?
So, remember the movie Dances with Wolves?
Of course, Mary McDonnell will be here tonight.
Mary McDonnell inspired, I've never said this. Mary McDonnell inspired the character of Sela. Wow. Because in that story, she was, a white child left to be raised by indigenous Native Americans as a Native American. Her whole, point of view was through that lens. And I had seen the movie and I love the movie. I thought, what if, because it's clearly Castillo and Yar have a romantic relationship. What if Tasha goes back on the Enterprise C and she survives the battle because she's so fierce, but she's pregnant with Castillo's child. And when she's captured by the Romulans, they scan her and know she's pregnant, and they decide to keep her alive so that the baby will be a bargaining chip for the Federation, for the Romulans and the Federation. But this child will be raised Romulan, so she will be in complete denial of her, humanness, her human side. So, either brazenly or stupidly, I called Rick Berman and said, I have this weird idea. Would you have lunch with me? And can I talk to you about this idea? And he said, absolutely. So I went to the commissary, we had lunch at Paramount, and I pitched this idea. And Rick said, let me think about it. It's interesting, let me think about it. And I'll get back to you. And I thought, great, finally, I've tasted the Hollywood, pitch story. I'll never hear from him again. So I went home. And I don't know how much longer, not that much longer, time, took. And he called me and he said, you know what? We're going to go with this idea. We're going to go with this story, but we're going to tweak it a little bit. We're going to, instead of Tasha being, pregnant with Castillo's child, she's going to be held captive by a Romulan general, kept as a concubine, and she will have a half Romulan, half human.
So now it's Natalie Wood and the Searchers.
Well, no, now it changes dramatically. It changes dramatically because now Tasha is now again victimized in a way. See, I thought she has a baby with Castillo, but no, she's got to be held, and raped by where she has fought so fiercely her whole life against this. Now she's, being held by this Romulan and has forced upon her this Romulan. And I went, it changes the story. It changes the thing, about Tasha. But I really was in love with this character of this daughter. Because I thought my original idea, and they never completed the arc
They never completed the arc. There it sits.
Should I get him now? Should I finally get him? No, because no
Therapy for you.
No. I thought it would be so fascinating for this character of Sela to be in such denial of her mother and her human but she would begin to learn about her mother and this part of her, and perhaps be a bridge to peace with the Romulans. That was my intention.
Well, that is what we talked about internally doing with it. But at that point in the series and at that point in television, there was a very strong antipathy or pushback from the studio in terms of any kind of serialization, right? So we were already like playing with fire in their eyes by bringing Tasha back once, and then Sela, and the Worf ongoing kind of story that we would put in whenever we could. Paramount wasn't that comfortable with it, and they really bridled in the later years of making it more tied up in the back. Because I remember we were starting to like talk internally about, well, where do we take Sela next? Okay, I don't remember if it was exactly as you pitched it to, she would be a bridge to peace, but I know we had plans to bring her back and do other things. But at a certain point, Rick's like, you know what? Paramount just keeps saying stop serializing the show. It's annoying them. Just don't. It's like let's just not do this. It was another fight he didn't want to have with them because TV was very different, especially in the show was first run syndication, which meant when we sent the episodes out to your local independent stations that broadcast them in those days, they didn't have to run them in order. They could run them in any order that they wanted to. So as a result, if you did a serialized story and they ran it out of order, it didn't make any sense. So there was this kind of weird political/business aspect to it at the time as well.
But Brannon, those notes weren't as bad as having a boy band play on the ship, right? Like you were getting on Enterprise, a 90s boys band.
Yeah. Perhaps it would have improved the show. I don't know, but no. There are notes. There are bad notes. It is worth mentioning that it seemed to us anyway that we were largely left alone. We didn't get a lot of notes, or perhaps Rick was fielding more notes than we knew. But generally speaking, they rarely interfered.
Okay, I know there's a ton of questions out there, so I'm extending the panel by a few minutes. Let's start. Oh, Q is always the first one to ask a question. Go figure.
Uh-oh.
In the original? In the original draft, Data was supposed to die by being electrocuted, and you were going to kill Wesley, weren't you?
Oh, yes. Actually, in the first draft, yes. Because I had Act 5, I had the final battle, and I took great delight in killing every single bridge crew member, one by one, in different ways. And yes, Data was electrocuted. I think Wesley was decapitated. It was like a bloodbath, and it was like, unfortunately, no, Ron, we're not going to kill them all. It's too time-consuming. And I think Rick was like, oh, come on, you're just trying to have fun and kill them all. And I was like, yeah, let's kill them all, man. It'll be fun. But so it got pulled down a bit from the original draft.
Thank you. Next question.
Ron and Brandon, first of all, thank you for what you've done for Star Trek, and all your work is brilliant. Thank you. And my question is, I'm a new writer, and I'm working on my new sci-fi book, and I want to turn it into a movie one day. So any tips you have for me or anyone that wants to write would be awesome.
Writing advice from Brandon and Ron?
Concentrate on the book first, make it a good book, and then I think it's hard and tricky to write a book with an eye towards making it a movie later. Like just concentrate on making it a good book first. Make it a good novel, which I assume it's a novel. Work on the characters. I think that most important thing for a writer is to remember that it's the characters that the audience falls in love with more than the plot. So you really want to concentrate on the characters and make them real and human.
And you're already doing the most important thing, which is your writing. Keep writing.
Thank you.
Have you either of you thought about writing a novel? Is that everything considered? Have
way,
you ever
way
considered
too
that?
much work.
Way too much work.
It's a lot of work. I did want to write a novel at one point, and I thought, I'll write a novel in my spare time, because hey, you know, a good day of screenwriting. My benchmark, if I've done a good solid day's work in terms of a script, is 10 pages. 10 pages a day, that's I feel proud. Okay, I'm gonna do this novel, and I'll do it on the weekends. And if I'll try to do 5 pages a day, you know, just cut myself some slack. I couldn't get 1 page a day. It was like, it's such a different muscle and a different thing. I was like, okay.
Yes, next question.
Hello, this one is for Ms. Crosby. You mentioned how it was a bit frustrating how they couldn't really wrap up Sela's story in TNG. It has been a treat when I was still playing Star Trek Online, seeing Sela return and a lengthy story there. Has that been largely satisfying, the way her story has continued in STO, or has there been frustration in there too?
No, I think the online video game did a tremendous job. Those guys are so clever. Al Rivera, you know, approached me, and the lead designer on that game, and had such a deep story arc for Sela. You know, she becomes the Empress of Romulus, and, you know, she's fighting with all kinds of intrigue and alliances, and it was really fun. I mean, it whetted my appetite, you know, it gave me some meat for that character, and I was grateful. Yeah, it was very satisfying, really fun.
And especially wonderful to hear you voice the character. Not just her, but also when Tasha Yar returned for
yeah,
as well.
they did an amazing job. Amazing job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next question.
As was already said, this episode seemed to be kind of a turning point, both in fan appreciation, but maybe just in quality overall going on through this season and the next. Was there anything going on behind the scenes and sort of steering the show to hit its stride, or was this just all people practicing? You know, was it a gestalt? Everyone was just getting better at their craft and the writing.
Well, Ron, maybe you want to talk about that, and also you both can talk about the importance of Michael Piller, who we have not acknowledged thus far, and is essential to understanding the improvement in the quality of Star Trek.
Yeah, I mean, Michael came aboard the beginning of the 3rd season. And then, you know, he's the one that found and bought my spec script and then hired me. And Michael's focus was, he said, the show should be about the characters of the Enterprise. And his mandate was, every episode has to start with, it's a Worf show, it's a Picard show, it's a Data show, it's a Troy show. Whose story is it? And that changed like the whole sort of methodology, because now you're talking about character first, like literally character first. Because you get a lot of pitches and from within the staff and also from the freelancers that would come in those days to pitch ideas. And they're inevitably pitching a big high concept sci-fi idea. It's a time travel thing. It's an evil twin story. It's, you know, an interesting sociological problem on an alien planet. But Michael would always try to bring it back to, okay, but whose story is it? Why is this a Picard story? Why is this a show about Riker? And that started turning the ship literally turning the ship in a different direction. And suddenly we're diving deeper into the characters, and we're discovering things about them, and it just made the show really what we've come to know and love.
Just compare yesterday's Enterprise to a time travel episode from 2nd season, Time Squared, right? Which is not a good episode. It just shows you how the writing quality evolved. And, you know, Brannon, you joined the show on the 4th season, and everyone was still shell-shocked from the 3rd season. I wonder if you can just talk about, you know, the improving fortunes and why Star Trek just started getting better and better and hitting its stride, Michael's importance to that process.
Well, I began as an intern, and my first day, I met Michael first. He was writing Best of Both Worlds Part 2, and the only writer there was Ron. Ron was the only writer left.
He was the only survivor.
From season 3. To this day, I don't even really know what the composition of the writing staff was in season 3, but Ron was the only one left. And Michael put together, piece by piece, a new writing staff. He brought in Jerry Taylor, who recently passed, Joe Manoski, Renee Sharia, Narain Shankar. It was a bit of luck, a lot of his instinct. He was just a brilliant writer himself. And he just set the bar higher with the scripts. And season 4, I think it's kind of amazing that it was just you and Michael at that point.
Sorry, did you know Michael much? Because, I know when Brent, I don't know if he's being facetious, but he'll say, oh, he's the one with the baseball cap, right? So did you have much dealings, or was it mostly with Rick?
Yeah, it was, I'm trying to think when I came back as Sela, season 4, the finale. I'm sure I've met him. I hope I met him. I would be, crushed if I hadn't. But most of my dealings were, with Rick.
Let's do speed dating round.
Have to, guys.
Yes, you have to go.
Jump in.
Everybody, Denise Crosby, thank you so much for joining us.
No, thank you. What an honor. I'm sorry I have to get on a plane and go to another Comic-Con in Tulsa. Oklahoma.
Again, you're leaving early, but we'll find a way to bring you back someday.
That's good.
Story of my life.
And then let's try and get through.
Bye-bye.
Safe travels. See you, Galaxy.
Yeah. Okay. Oh my God, the best. The best.
Let's get through these last couple of questions. We have like 3 minutes.
All right, so you said Paramount wouldn't let you really do much more with Sela because they didn't want you to serialize Next Generation. So my question is, then how did you get away with DS9? Because that entire series.
Well, because DS9 by its nature just became more serialized whether they wanted it to or not, because it didn't go anywhere. The Enterprise flies off and pulls up to a planet, has a story, moves on to the next one. Deep Space Nine, if you look at the first couple of seasons, though, they were trying very hard to make it very episodic and not connect the dots. But the fact that you're there in the same place every single week, it was virtually impossible not to serialize that piece. So eventually, Paramount just gave up and said, go, whatever, just go.
They didn't necessarily turn the Eye of Sauron on the...
No, they were looking elsewhere at Voyager at that point.
Yeah.
Ron and Brannon, how did you basically, after developing such intensive worlds in your mind and everything, how did you purge that, and how did you deal with not bringing everything to an end, right? And all the storylines and so on and so forth.
I'm not sure I understand.
Talking about all good things? We're talking about the ending of...
No, I'm talking about in general, right? I mean, working on all of Star Trek and developing all of these different, the Klingons and so on and so forth, and that, at some point leaving and not continuing after spending 10 years on it.
Well, you've talked very eloquently about this, Brannon, about how much you missed the Star Trek days, what a special time in your life it was. I think he's asking sort of the elegy for your Star Trek tenures.
I learned to be a screenwriter on Star Trek. I had incredible collaborations with brilliant writers. It'll stay with me forever. And I doubt in some ways I'll ever work on anything as great as Next Generation. It just was a certain show at a certain moment in time. It will always be the most important show I ever worked on. It's still with me.
And I was a fan. I started as a fan. I went to conventions. I bought uniforms. I built the models. And then I was part of it. And I'm still a fan, so.
And, your Star Trek experience continues to inform your work today. Bren did sensational work on the Orville. Fantastic. Obviously, a lot of people have called For All Mankind a Star Trek prequel in a way, and it is. And it's brilliant. So Star Trek stays with them, even though they're not doing Star Trek, but we can all hope and dream and pray and get a little genie out and hope that one day they will return to this place again. Okay.
All right. Speaking of the Orville, Mr. Brannon, can you please sign my Orville model, pretty please? I'm asking nicely.
No, of course.
Thank you. I came so far to get the signs.
Okay, no problem. No problem. I'll meet you.
You want to go over
there
afterwards at the Treksperts table over there?
On the side of the stage, or?
Yeah. No, of course.
I think we have. Oh God, that line keeps getting bigger. Stop getting on the line. The panel's over. Go ahead.
Just a very quick comment, really, for Ron. Your idea about killing off all the people on the bridge reminds me of Agatha Christie, and then there were none. So I think that would be a real fun kind of spoof if you could do, and then there were none with all the Star Trek characters someday.
That's a great idea.
Okay, thanks.
Ryan Johnson is doing that one. Go ahead.
Ron, quick question, if you remember, who came up with the line, "Let's make sure history never forgets the name Enterprise"?
I wrote that line.
Giddy up.
Go ahead.
Hi, I'm a screenwriter director. This question is for anybody on the panel, but mostly for David. What is something that you, how has directing changed from throughout your career, and what can we keep and hold on to moving forward?
David, why don't you take that? You directed so many great episodes of Star Trek and beyond. So why don't you answer that? Question was, how has directing changed over the years?
We did 26 episodes a year, and at that point, an episodic director was the flavor of the week. You came in, you did your 7 or 8 days of shooting, and then you were gone. Your post-production rights were limited. You didn't have participation in the script at all. You didn't get to, you went to the casting sessions, but the executive producers made those decisions. You were basically limited to directing on the stage floor. Today, different world. We have these 8 and Out series, and if you look at the credits, inevitably you'll see that one director or 2 directors directs the entire streaming series, and they have an executive producer credit. So the power and the influence of directors in television is infinitely different than it was 30 years ago.
Thank you, David. And last question.
Yeah, I think I know the answer to this question, but I want to answer it. I want to ask it anyway. Did this episode serve as an impetus, sort of the genesis of what later happened with DS9? And essentially, this world you've created, this alternative history, hey, Federation's at war with these Klingons. That's really exciting. That's much more exciting than what we have. And so later on, you wanted to put the Federation at war with the Dominion. Did this episode become sort of a spark that said, hey, we need to bring this war into the Alpha Quadrant in that way?
Ron, I think what he's asking is, was season 4 inspired of Deep Space Nine inspired at all by?
I'm saying this episode. Was it sort of like the genesis of it?
I don't know directly. I don't remember us having conversations directly about that, but I do know that Ira Bear had worked with us, and he's one of the writers on Yesterday's Enterprise in season 3, and he was the head writer and showrunner of Deep Space Nine years later. And we were both very proud of that episode. So I'm sure that the DNA of it and the experience of doing it and the possibilities, the intriguing idea of what would the Federation be if it were in a full interstellar war was definitely something I think we both were sort of tantalized by, and here's an idea, but I don't remember any specific discussions where we said, remember Yesterday's Enterprise, here's our opportunity to do more.
Well, I could listen to you guys talk all day, but unfortunately, we have some more panels coming up. The good news is the 3 of them are going to be back for Best of Both Worlds 35th anniversary in an hour. Right now, we have our Trek's Not Taken with Eric Jenderson talking about Star Trek The Beginning, the script that he had sold to Paramount that was going to be filmed after Nemesis until there was a studio regime change. And of course, Ron is going to be joining us on Sunday for our Star Trek politics panel with Mary Trump and Mary McDonnell and Tim Russ. It's going to be pretty spectacular. Don't miss that. Brannon is going to be doing a Voyager 30th anniversary panel tomorrow on the main stage. and talking about the historic milestone of Voyager. So lots of goodness to come. Thank you for joining us, and a special thanks to Ron, Brannon, and David. And here are closing thoughts. I love that panel.
Not once did Lincoln come in and say it was a gangbang.
Now, the interesting thing was, obviously, we talked more than just yesterday. More than just talk about yesterday's Enterprise, because Brannon Braga was not on the show. It was funny. I remember he called me when I said he was going to be on a panel about yesterday's Enterprise. He's like, I wasn't even on the show yet. And I'm like, don't you think I know that? Of course I know that. I said, we're going to talk about yesterday's Enterprise and how it influenced the time travel episodes that were to come, because it was such an interesting time travel. And obviously time travel was your bête noire. So he was like, oh, okay. That makes sense. I said, yeah. What, you think this is my first rodeo? So anyway.
His second rodeo.
Anyway, it was a great panel. They came back and did Best of Both Worlds with Scott Mantz, which will be simulcasting at some point in the future. But we hope you enjoyed this. This is just a taste of our incredible yes, it's a taste of Armageddon. Our 4 days of incredible Star Trek content at Star Trek Las Vegas back in August.
Imagine you had all of the convention at your disposal, and this was just one small sample.
Yeah, and I just want to point out, we are not going to play every panel.
No.
Because we want some of it to remain special.
That's
so
right.
if you listen to the recap and we're like, oh, I can't wait to hear that one, doesn't mean it's coming to the show.
No, don't hold your breath on everything.
Yeah,
right.
not everything is going to be, not everything's going to be available. And some we might put behind the paywall, because I want to make sure that people are supporting the TrekspertsPlus.com, TrekspertsPlus.com. If you're not a subscriber, we're going to be adding a lot of new content in the coming weeks. So you want to make sure that you subscribe to Treksperts.com. And we are going to get back onto providing commercial-free preview of upcoming episodes, as well as the Deck 78s 2 weeks before they premiere. So a lot of good stuff when you're a Treksperts Plus subscriber. But we'll be back next Thursday with an all-new episode. And we'll talk more about some great Star Trek stuff, right? Won't we, guys?
We sure will. And, we probably won't even mention gangbangs.
I think it's fair to say we probably won't. So anyway, we encourage you to rate and review Inglorious Treksperts wherever you listen to podcasts, although they may be horrified after this week. Who knows? You can subscribe at TrekspertsPlus.com on Spotify, get access to bonus episodes, early commercial-free drops, and more. Inglorious Treksperts is a production of the Treksperts Podcast Network. Mark A. Altman, that's me, Darren Dochterman, Ashley Miller, executive producers, Peter Holmstrom, Brian Mixer, producers, Mark Rivera is our audio sound mixer, and John Carney, we love John Carney, is our social media manager. It's copyright 2025 by Treksperts Plus. And you can find out all about the Treksperts Plus goodness on all major social channels under Inglorious Trek and Inglorious Treksperts. And if you feel the fool because you missed us at Vegas, or you missed us at GalaxyCon, or you missed us at Ticonderoga, or you just missed me like with the scooter, you want to basically
You
go.
barely missed him.
Barely, sir. You want to check out these upcoming shows. We're going to be, all three of us, I know that's the novelty these days, but all three of us are going to be in GalaxyCon Des Moines, September 12th to the 14th. We're going to be in St. Louis, October 10th through October 12th. No, I guess that's right. Milwaukee, just added, November 7th to the 9th. That's going to be a fun one. So if you're at University of Madison, you want to come out, because college students love us. And, well, that didn't come out, right? Gangbang. Columbus, December 5th to the 7th. It's that's a big one, 007. Columbus we've been there a couple years now. We love Columbus. Columbus, you guys rock. And we got to get a hold of that printer guy, because we're going to need to do some new printing. So the guy in Columbus. And then I want to point out, we have a big announcement. You ready? You ready? This is the big announcement. Here it comes. Here it comes now, Con. Darren Dochterman is going to be our little buddy on the cruise this winter.
Yes.
On the Star Trek cruise, Darren will be our representative. February 20th to the 27th.
The 60th.
So just sit right back, and he'll tell us a tale. A tale of a faithful trip that started at this traffic port aboard this mighty ship. He's more like Jonas Grumby.
By the way, I would just like to take this moment to point out that every Emily Dickinson poem ever written can be sung to the tune of Gilligan's Island.
Is that right?
Yes, that's absolutely.
I've
One
never
day
tried
when I
that.
had stopped for death, it did not stop for me. Also, by the way, you can do it to the Yellow Rose of Texas. So there's a whole transitive property there. We'll do an entire episode on just things that and Amazing Grace. So yeah.
You know who was amazing? Grace.
Grace, she is Grace.
Peter's fiance, Grace.
And amazing.
I love her. She is so no bullshit, just gets it to get her done. She is like the Jellicoe of conventions.
Yes.
Love that, Grace.
Or Jellicoe would love her because
I know some people could use a few lessons from Grace.
And getting it done, get her done.
And get
that's
her
Larry
done.
the Cable Guy.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, that's enough of us.
Yeah.
You know, you heard the good stuff. I mean, Ron and Brannon have been off the show now for 10 minutes, so I guess you probably want to go. So anyway, we already said our goodbyes. So we'll be back next Thursday with an all-new episode. You don't want to miss it. So we'll see you then. On behalf of Darren Dochterman, Ashley Edward Miller, myself, Mark A. Altman, keep on trekking. Ingloriously, of course.